What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel and now welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed unless, of course, your taste level is just subpar. We all gotta struggle, right? It's always something wrong with it. Something a little. To everyone else, hi, welcome. I hope you are, child, holding up. And today I will not be doing my makeup because I'm just not in the mood. I'm doing skincare again, and because I literally cannot remember the last time I retwisted my hair, we're also gonna do that while I tell you this true crime story, and this is a whole hot mess. So let me get into it. I'm using all of the same products, same order as I did in the last video, so refer to that for the details, because child. A few years ago, 2020 to be exact, a very disturbing video hit the net that a lot of people thought was fake. They thought it was, just a simple, harmless joke or maybe a staged skit. And in actuality, it was none of the things, okay? It was a horrific, true event. The video is inside of someone's apartment, and in it you can see this blue suitcase laying on its side. And you can also hear the voices of two people, one of which is a man who is actually locked inside of the suitcase, is moving around because he is trying to get out of it, and he is asking the other person to let him out. And it's obvious that she's the person behind the camera and she is taunting him, just being a menace. She's refusing to let him out, and he basically begs, telling her he cannot breathe until he just stops breathing altogether.
Sarah. For everything you've done to me. Sarah. For everything you've done to me. Sarah. You. Sarah. You. Sarah. Stupid. Sarah. That's my name. Don't wear it up. Sarah. I can't breathe, babe. Seriously. Yeah, that's when you choke me. Sarah. 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 Sarah, I can't breathe, babe. That's on you. Sarah, I can't breathe. It's on you. Sarah. Reel around some. Might want to get video for it extra. Because we got this. Sarah. Reel around. Sarah. Sarah, I can't breathe, babe. Oh. That's what I feel like when you ching on me. Sarah. Please, Sarah. Yeah. You should probably shut up. Sarah. Shh. Sarah.
Now, at first, the most unsettling aspect of the video was the fact that it triggered people's claustrophobia. However, when it was revealed that it was not a skit, nor was it staged or a joke, it left a lot of us more horrified. The woman is 47-year-old Sarah Boone, and the victim is her 42-year-old boyfriend, George Torres. And at this point, I'm going to introduce a third individual into the story. His name is Brian, Sarah's ex-husband, with whom she co-parents a son that she had with him during their marriage, 9-year-old Lucas. Now, I use the term co-parent very loosely because the son lives full-time with Brian, and Sarah is not that involved or responsible of a parent. Very absent, very unreliable. Definitely giving my father, okay? February 24th, 2020 is a Monday, one of 2 days of the week that she is scheduled or supposed to pick up Lucas from school. And Brian knows how Sarah is. Very unreliable. So he begins calling her that morning to remind her, like, hey, don't forget to pick up our child today. And typical Sarah, she is not answering the phone. He calls her a total of 5 times throughout the day or throughout the morning. all of the calls go unanswered. So about 12 noon, he makes a 6th call because it's nearing the end of the school day and he wants to make arrangements for their son if he has to. And this time Sarah does answer, but before he could say anything, she starts ranting. She's very panicked and frantically requests that Brian come over to her apartment right away. Brian does not live far from her, just a few blocks away, so he tells her he'll come over. She doesn't tell him what for, only that it is an emergency. And as soon as he steps foot inside of her apartment, he stops dead in his tracks because there is the suitcase with a pair of legs sticking out of it just beyond the entryway. Brian doesn't take another step forward, nor does he ask any questions. He tells Sarah that she needs to call the police right away. She asks him to come inside and he's like, no, because the last thing Brian wants is for a little piece of hair or a toenail to fall onto the crime scene, tying him into all of the things. She whips out her phone and she does dial 911. When the operator answers, she just says, my boyfriend is dead. While on the phone with the operator, who is now transferring her to the fire department, she begs Brian not to leave her. Like, Mama is panicking, but Brian is going to wait for the police in his car. First of all, he wasn't quite sure that she was even calling for real, so he wanted to sit and make sure that she did call the police. But he also wanted that space, and he also did not want her to try to loop him in because he knows how Sarah can be, and the trust is not there. He's an ex-husband for a reason. And y'all, we'll get into that. I know you are dying to know, no pun intended. I know you're eager to know how he ended up in that suitcase in the first place. But first, of course, I have to take it all the way back to the beginning of their story. Starting with Brian and Sarah. The two of them met and fell in love in their early 20s. And when he first met Sarah, he thought she was extraordinary. Sarah stood out from all the other girls. She was adventurous. She was full of energy. And being with her made life feel thrilling for Brian. He enjoyed the ride at first. Things really seemed promising in the beginning. The two of them end up getting married. And then eventually they welcome their son, Lucas. And that is when things start to go downhill. The moment that they expand their family, Brian begins to realize that Sarah is not quite a family girl like that. After Sarah dropped that baby, she was ready to get back in the streets, okay? She was hanging out at bars all the time, hanging out with friends. Her drinking spirals out of control. And it very much gave that she was not down with the responsibilities that came with being a mom. And unfortunately, the more she drank, the more her behavior shifted. She would become very rowdy, very violent even, super aggressive. All of these things that Brian had not experienced from her before. Because apparently, in her sober state of mind, she was not a violent girl, but once she got a little bit of liquor in her system, the spirit of Ike Turner paid her a little visit. Now in the beginning, she would just become rowdy and she would yell and verbally abuse him, push him a little bit, but it wasn't long before she resulted to full-on assault. And Brian feared that it was only a matter of time before things escalated further than that, and one of them ended up really hurt. So he packs up his things and little baby Lucas's things and leaves her, goes to stay with his father or his parents until he can find a place for him and his son. At least that was the plan. The separation does not last long. Sarah told him she wanted her family back, so she would constantly beg him to come home and bring the baby too. And she promised Brian on bended knee that she would change. He did not want to have to leave her and become a single father. That was not his ideal situation. So eventually she does convince him to give their marriage and their love and family a second chance, and he returns home. The two of them even attend couples therapy together, and she appears to be making a valiant effort, and it seems like there is a bright future possibly for their family, but that optimism was very short-lived, and so was Sarah's good behavior. Brian very quickly realized that all of the things were just performative, and Sarah truly did not have a desire to change. I ain't gonna hold y'all. It's a jungle back there. Brian had a job. He was working to support the family while Sarah did not work. And he didn't mind that. He just wanted her to, be a homemaker. Clean up while I'm gone, girl. Go grocery shop with the money I'm bringing in. Pick up little Junior from school. Help him with his homework. Things like that. But instead of doing these things and being home for Junior after school, Mama was out running the streets, okay? The house wasn't clean, nothing was cooked. While they were at work in school, Sarah would literally just enjoy having the place to herself. And then once Junior got out of school, Brian got home from work, it was time for her to hit the streets. And that was a whole separate issue because she would go out to the bar, have a time, meet friends, strangers, bring them back to the house, in the wee hours of the morning with no regard to her son nor Brian, their sleep schedule, and the fact that they have to get up in the morning. Her company will often be loud and disrupt her family. And she was very unapologetic, very unbothered by the fact she really just didn't care. They would often disagree and argue about this. And then one night in particular, she comes home a little bit after midnight with a friend she had met down to the bar. Both of them intoxicated. At some point, the friend, I guess, goes outside but comes back into the house yelling Sarah's name, which not only wakes up Lucas but startles him because it's a whole stranger, like stranger danger. Who are you? And for Brian, this here was the final straw because this is a safety issue. Like, you don't know these people. We don't know these people. We should not be subjected to your mess and your chaos. Sarah very obviously belonged to the streets, and Brian came to realize that the best thing to do was to send her back to them. He divorces her and of course takes the son, which is why and how he came to live with Brian full time. And they agreed that on Monday, Tuesdays, and every other weekend, Sarah would have visitation. He still did want his son to have a good relationship with his mother. So he tried to make like visitation easy for her. And he even found a place for them to live that was just a couple of blocks away from her apartment, so they could still kind of be close physically. But even still, Sarah rarely made an effort to see her child. There are days where she forgets to pick him up from school, where she does not pick him up on her weekends after promising that she would. She just was not a very present and active parent. And whenever Brian would confront her about this, she always had an excuse or reason as to why she failed to show up. It was always that she was tired, she had overslept, she did not feel well, or she had a rough day. It's like, bro, you not working, baby. A rough day from the bar is crazy. Like, imagine Brian's frustration hearing I had a rough day or I'm tired when he really has been fathering and working. The way I would just immediately black out. Now, one of these bars that she likes to hang out, she meets George Torres Jr., who, just like Brian, is completely enamored by her at first. Sarah and George, they start dating, and then he moves in with her. And this whole new relationship just completely sends her in a downward spiral. She was already spiraling downward, but this child was a catalyst. They have very similar personalities. Both of them were quick-tempered, both of them liked to drink, and both of them became volatile once they had that little piece of liquor in their system. So it's just a recipe for disaster. The police will always be called down to the apartment, and either one of them would be arrested and hit with a DV charge. Sometimes both of them are arrested and charged. It's a whole hot mess. George worked at Ace Hardware, this hardware store, and Sarah still did not have a job. Instead, she was collecting her alimony from her divorce with Brian. So that's their setup. There was one instance in 2018 where police responded to a 911 call that was made by Sarah and George's neighbors at around 2 a.m. because they just would not pipe down. Sarah opens the door with a whole blackened eye. And she tells the officers, yes, that she and her partner had a very heated argument, one that had gotten out of hand and resulted in George putting his hands on her. She said that things escalated, and then George dragged her down the stairs and kicked her in the face, hence the black eye. And she says that he was upset because she had asked another man for a cigarette at the bar, and he felt disrespected. Now, when they get the door open a little bit more, George is standing there, and he in worse shape than Sarah. There are very obvious strangulation marks on his neck, cuts, and according to him, she had choked him, then dug her nails into him. Child, I guess they was just in there brawling. Because he said at that point, like, he was trying to get away from her to save his own life. And in the midst of trying to get away, he was kicking, spitting, and all of the things. And one of those kicks had landed in her eye. He had no intention, he says, of kicking her there. It's just where his foot landed. The officers are so confused, they can't determine who started this, who is the true aggressor. And so everybody is arrested and hauled off to jail. George was charged with a first-degree misdemeanor, but Sarah received a much more serious charge. She got a third-degree felony. Her actions and his wounds were more severe in their eyes, and so she got the more serious, severe charges to match. And this was the nature of their relationship. Very toxic, very volatile, very up and down. Child, it don't even sound like there was no ups. It just sounds like downs to me. And George would leave the apartment often to go stay with his father, be it on his own accord, leaving her, or after the two would get into a fight and then she would put him out. And then when they would break up, she would call Brian and complain to him and cry to him and tell him that George was just this horrible person. She doesn't want to be with George. She really wants her family back. But Brian was not interested at all. He was not trying to return as a cast member to Sarah's shit show. Instead, he would just hear her out, decline her offer for him to come home, and then days later, George would be back at the apartment. In July of 2019, they have another dispute where the police were called out, and this time only George was arrested. And after this instance, Sarah filed for a non-hostile contact order. The order is granted and George is prohibited from having any physical or verbal altercations with Sarah. He was also ordered not to consume alcohol or drugs and was of course ordered to move out of her apartment. So he does come home, pack up his things, and leave as he is ordered to do, goes to live with his father, but it is not long before he returned to Sarah's apartment, violating that order. And of course, they have another altercation, which results in the police being called again. George is arrested this time, also hit with a $15,000 bail, and he is put on probation. Because, girl, why are you playing with the court's order like that? He gets out, he returns to Sarah's house again, and in September of 2019, local police received yet another phone call from Sarah saying that George had attacked her, that she was at home minding her business and he was downstairs. She was upstairs. He called for her to come downstairs to where he was and she did not. So he stomps upstairs all angry, kicks the door open and closed fists her in the face. Now, when the police come out to talk to George, he tells them basically that Sarah is always hitting on him too. She hit him too. He just does not call the police on her when she hits him, but it happens often and they weren't really trying to hear that. They still arrest him for the 11th time.
She's the one that hit me, and I'm the one that gets like. Did she hit you? All the time. Who hit him first? She does.
After this incident, George lands himself in DV classes. I'm not sure if he took these on his own accord or if these were court ordered, but he takes them. And he does express an interest in getting a handle on his anger issues. And he did speak to people about the videos that they had shown in these classes, how they touched him, because they, I guess, highlighted the effects, long-term effects that these situations have on victims. He claimed to have been really touched by them, even becoming emotional about it when he would talk about it. And he apologized to Sarah. He told her going forward, he was going to keep his hands to himself and try to do better. Sarah, on the other hand, she was committed to being Sarah. Okay, to the very end. So he starts off his 2020 trying to be a better person, keep his hands and his feet to himself, but unfortunately ended up in a suitcase a month later. And when the operator asked Sarah to explain what happened, she does admit that he had climbed into the suitcase and she had zipped it up for him. But then she says afterwards she had forgotten about him and then she just went to bed. Until the next morning when she woke up and then she realized George is still in the bag. Now, mind you, he was reportedly 5'2", 103 pounds. In a panic, she said that she ran downstairs, saw the suitcase was still laying there on the floor, zipped up. She quickly unzipped it, and to her surprise, his face was purple. There was blood coming from his mouth, and he was unfortunately deceased. Now, despite the operator repeatedly instructing her to perform CPR, Sarah refused. She just kept insisting that there was no reason to, there was no use. She said to them, quote, "You can tell just by looking at him that he's dead." And she kept trying to convince them that he had likely suffered some sort of unrelated to the suitcase medical emergency. She was saying that because of the blood on his mouth, that he probably had an aneurysm and hadn't noticed any of like the symptoms or signs that are typical when you're about to suffer an aneurysm in the days before. And because they kept insisting that she try CPR in the meantime while help was on the way, she started counting like she was actually performing CPR. But the thing about CPR, the person performing it, eventually you're going to be like winded, out of breath because you pumping your little breath, girl, into somebody else. And at no point was Sarah losing her breath. Sarah had all the breath. She was not out of breath at all. She was just counting away as if she really was doing it. And they did not believe that she actually was. Now, throughout the call, she does not cry. She does not express any signs of like distress, which they, of course, also think is strange behavior. Child, if I have to pick one more belly hair out of my hair, I'm gonna have attitude. The only time she really expressed any type of emotion is when Brian went to walk out at the beginning of the call and she yelled out begging for him not to leave her. Even after help arrives and they announce or confirm George's death, she has no, like, she's not sad, there are no tears, there's no emotion whatsoever from Sarah. Then she starts acting weird. Officers arrive, escort her out of the apartment, and ask her questions. They also ask her to recount everything that happened the night before. They also question Brian, who was still in his car, and she tries to stall. So before she starts giving them the rundown of the night before, she tells them that she's extremely thirsty. She would like to go into the house to get her a Dr. Pepper. They deny her request. They tell her that the house is now like a crime scene, it's under investigation, and that nothing inside can be touched. But Sarah would not back down. She refuses to answer any of their questions or recount the evening without her Dr. Pepper, which she said was sitting right on the tape. And the officers, they're not backing down either. They're basically like, you're not getting that Dr. Pepper, girl. It's not happening. She tells them that she's extremely thirsty. She needs something to drink. They ask Brian if he got some water in his car, anything to drink. He doesn't. She goes over to one of the crime scene, like, forensics investigators as they're entering the house and tries to get them to grab her Dr. Pepper off the table to bring it to her. She was really adamant. Then she started asking if she can go inside to grab her cigarettes. They denied that request as well. She was so adamant about getting back into the house that they started to think that she was probably trying to get back in so she could tamper around with the crime scene. They really believe that there was some reason aside from the reason she was providing that she was so adamant about getting back inside the apartment. But I don't know. I think she might have really just been thirsty or stalling and trying to like think, because eventually she runs over to the water spigot that you would attach a water hose to, turns it on, sticks her little mouth underneath, and starts drinking. And then she looks up and she sees the property manager and she points him out to the officers, tell them like, hey, that's my landlord. Should I go tell him what happened? No. Eventually she does end up telling them what she told the 911 operator, which was that they were playing a game of hide and seek. She had helped him get into the suitcase and had forgotten about him. And then the following day, they bring her back down to the station for more questioning.
How do I go about getting his wedding ring? Engagement ring?
It's at the medical examiner's office. It'll come to us eventually, and then
it'll be released to the next of kin.
Yeah. Okay.
I bought it for him.
Okay.
That is a civil issue. It was on his finger. It goes to them. They're the ones that are going to release it. We don't have any say in that.
So I won't get that back.
She tells them that George had been abusive in the past.
You can see all of the damage he has done to me and the videos of him smashing my television because he's belligerently drunk. Where most of the time, I just don't want to be there. And I try to help him. I try to calm him down.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, he just passes out.
But he had been doing really well as of lately, but only very recently though, because she said that it was only 30 days ago that he had allegedly hit her in the head with a curtain rod. And she tells him that she has the evidence of that on her phone to prove it. Now, she also willingly turns over this phone to them for them to go through, and in about 10 minutes or so, you're gonna see how this backfired horribly on her. She's also sitting there showing them other areas where she said that she had sustained injuries at the hands of George, and she is showing them like the healed scars, saying, quote, I don't know if Brian told you or not, but my injuries were so severe that I needed surgery. I had to go to the hospital 4 or 5 times. She mentions none of the things that she had ever done to him or the fact that they were fighting each other, none of the times that she was arrested or they were hauled off together. She conveniently leaves all of that out, as if they can't see from her arrest record. When asked why she had stayed in the relationship, she says, quote, I really loved him. I thought I could help him. We've been through so much together. And she paints herself basically out like some sort of savior. She's like, I invested in him. I supported him. He had these issues, but I loved him anyway. She tells them that she bought him like art supplies and puzzles to use as an outlet and help him express himself in positive ways, that she tried to get him to stop drinking. She said that she had hope and she was doing her best to be there for him and support him. According to her, he would overthink things, become overstimulated, and then turn to drinking instead of his little arts and crafts that she had provided for him. And she said when he would drink, she knew where it would lead. So she would oftentimes just go upstairs and read a book or take her bike out for a ride, which are some of the things that she would do instead of drinking to cope with the things that typically would drive her to. Girl, I keep pulling this little piece of hair out, fellas, and it just keeps making its way back. Now, going back to that night before this alleged game of hide and seek that somehow turned fatal, she said that the two of them were actually having a good night. They were listening to music, and then they decided that they were going to start painting together with the art supplies. But George, he wanted to drink. So they started drinking wine together, and it's a cute little paint and sip at home, and things are fine. They eventually decided to turn off the music so they could talk and discuss their relationship. According to her, George was drunk, but she was not.
I can't get drunk. Number one, I do not want to get drunk.
And then later on, they moved their talk to the porch. And by that time, because George had kept drinking, he was drunk, but she was not. And he started smoking as well. Smoking well, I don't know. And then after a while, and it getting late, he decided that he wanted to play a game of hide and seek. And to her, it sounded fun, right? Spontaneous. So she chose her hiding space, which was an upstairs bathroom. She went up there. She hid, and she said that she waited for him for a while. George never came up, and it was getting late, she said. She knew she had to pick up her son the next day. She wanted to be well rested. So she goes downstairs to see like what the holdup is, and she sees George standing in the living room, and he's now pulled the suitcase out. The suitcase was originally in the closet because they planned on packing it up to donate some clothes. And he tells her that he thinks it'll be funny to get inside of it. But then he tells her he would need her assistance to get inside because he couldn't himself, and he surely could not zip it up himself. So the two of them laugh and decide that they are going to put him in this suitcase and zip it up. And that is what they proceed to do. She says that they both were giggling, laughing as he was climbing inside, folding his body to fit, and also as she was zipping it up. But she says that she did not zip it all the way closed. She says she left it slightly unzipped so he would be able to get himself out of it whenever he was ready to. But then as she's talking, she later changes this part of her story and says that the zipper was actually broken and that they had to use a paper clip to like drag the little zipper piece open and close, which George had on the inside of the suitcase so that he could still get himself out when he was ready. Either way, according to her, he had the means of getting himself out whenever he was ready. I guess she wanted them to believe that he was just having like the time of his life in the suitcase. He gets settled in the suitcase. She said that she realized that she was extremely exhausted, and about 30 minutes later, she was upstairs in bed asleep. And the following morning, she wakes up, lays there for a moment before she realizes that George is still in the suitcase. Which to me, this doesn't make sense, because if you believe that he had the means of getting himself out of the suitcase, why would you then wake up the next morning and think like, oh shoot, he's still in the suitcase? Even if he wasn't in the bed with me, if that was true, I would think that eventually he got himself out and he was maybe asleep on the couch. I just don't think I would have assumed 100% right off the bat that he was still stuck. But I digress.
We were like painting, so then it's like, okay, well, I don't want to paint anymore. Let's just, come on. Okay, you want to play hide and seek? What he does is, okay, tag, you're it. So it's like, okay, we know. Okay, take off.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we did.
And then you went upstairs, and then he didn't come up, and you came down. Have you guys ever played you said you played hide and seek like probably 3 times in your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
When you have played, have you ever zipped him up in a suitcase prior?
No.
Okay.
I would never do that.
You would never zip them up in a suitcase?
Well,
I mean, we were playing.
you know, you're claiming that Sunday it was a joking matter. You were laughing, he was laughing. But what I'm just asking is in the past, like, is it something that you guys normally do?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
We were actually this last game running out of places to hide because we have a townhome where it's upstairs or downstairs. So
when asked why she called her ex-husband and not the police, she tells him that she didn't know what else to do. And she also asked if his family had been notified of what was going on. And the thing is, I forgot to mention, on the day of when she was initially questioned, she asked them not to notify his family because she said that they hated her and called her a blue-eyed devil. She didn't believe that his family would accept that this was an accident and that they would probably be out to get her. She was really concerned about that, and they told her like, babe, it's the law. I have to inform his family. So when she's been interrogated, she asks if the family had been told the details, like what did you tell them, and expresses that she is afraid for her life. That was about the only thing in the whole entire situation that was stressing her out, his family getting a hold of her. The detectives, I watched a lot of the interrogation video, which is on YouTube in full. They did a really good job, like making her believe that they understood all of the things, that she was making sense, and like, oh yeah, oh of course, oh yeah, we get it. And so they try to like get her to confess, and they're like, you know, we know George was abusive. It's okay if some point you just stopped caring or he pushed you to the edge. And Sarah is like, y'all ain't finna get me, baby. She's like, oh no, I always cared. Meanwhile, Brian is also being questioned by the police, and he's painting a more accurate picture of the thing. He tells them that the two of them, both of them, were very toxic with one another, and that they both had anger issues, they both got physical, and they both liked to drink, and that Sarah was especially aggressive after drinking. Now, remind you, when I told you that she willingly submits her phone to the forensic specialist for them to go through, thinking that they would just find the evidence of like her being bruised, battered. Well, they come across 2 videos in her phone taken from last night that show what really happened after George got into that suitcase. One of the officers comes back into the room with her laptop with the videos loaded onto it, and they show it to her. She had completely forgotten that she had recorded them.
Okay, so do you remember making any videos or maybe having any any photos, videos that you remember doing on your phone on Sunday?
No.
No?
I think I took a picture of a dog.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I have something that I want to show you that we found, and it was from your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it?
No, I don't remember that.
For everything you've done to me. For everything you've done to me.
Your battery's about to die.
Shutting down.
Oh, okay.
I didn't like completely lock it. I mean, I opened it with one finger. I left enough in there for him to get out.
Okay.
And I wasn't planning on going upstairs and going to sleep.
Okay.
You guys are scaring me.
Why?
Well, we just want you to watch this. It came from your phone. Don't you want to know what's on it?
Yes, please. Is it long? Because I don't know how much I can take.
Mm-mm.
I don't know how much I can take. Do I have to watch this? I continuously throw up. I don't sleep. I don't want to see it, if that's okay.
Well, it's on your phone, and you can either explain it or we take it for what it is.
Yeah. We're just trying to give you the opportunity to tell us what's going on. That's it.
It's that long?
2 minutes.
No.
For everything you've done to me. For everything you've done to me. Fuck you.
And
Fuck you.
That's you, your voice.
Stupid. That's my name. Don't wear it up. I can't fucking breathe, man. Yeah, that's when you do when you choke me.
I don't want to watch it, please. Okay.
Last time we talked to you, you had said that you put him in the suitcase, he had 2 fingers hanging out, and you
I
went to
flipped him over. I flipped him over, and that's where it was.
There's 2 different videos and a still picture where, yeah, it shows you flipping him in different positions, and him saying that he can't breathe, and you saying fuck you.
So this is upside down. So in order for him to have gotten into it,
It was flipped up.
right, it was flipped up normal.
Yes.
Like as if you're packing something. So this is upside down.
Guys, this is killing me right now.
So this image is upside down, and then this small video that occurred 11 minutes later, it's flipped over the other way, closer to your dining room table.
Okay.
Now he's obviously still in there. So he didn't, how did it go from the back to the front?
I flipped it.
Okay.
My plan was not to go upstairs and go to sleep,
Well, that's what you did.
Yeah.
but not intentional.
No, you told me you went upstairs because
What?
you were
Stop
getting
here.
ready for bed.
Stopped here.
Okay, but
Where's here?
show me where you can see any fingers coming out, because there's the end.
And his head's right here.
Mm-hmm.
So going like this, rather than going all the way up, it's like this.
But why is he saying I can't breathe, and why is he pushing on it as if he can't get out?
And it doesn't show a hole.
There's no
gap.
hole. There's no fingers. I don't see his fingers. There's no hole.
I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, I don't know, like, what you want me to tell you.
I'm just showing you. I'm just telling you what we see and what we've heard from the other video.
I understand.
He's begging for you to let him out. You're laughing in the beginning, and then in the end, it sounds kind of like a.
No, it's not malicious.
Well, saying fuck you,
It's not malicious.
then what is that?
What does fuck you mean to you?
Well,
Like if I were to tell my
like he
partner.
does. Like, I get called everything but a white woman, so
Okay.
my intention was not to leave him in there.
Do you
He's
think
not
he's
able to get
joking?
out.
You told me he was laughing, and
We were
the
before.
video. There's no
When we
laughing.
first got in there, both of us were.
So how long was he in there for? Like, this video is at 11:12 when it starts, so was he in there for, like, a long time prior to you recording this?
No. No.
So it goes from funny to no longer funny,
But
and
I
you're
didn't,
the only one laughing.
but I didn't think that he was, like, panicky. Like,
So pushing up on a suitcase saying, Sarah, Sarah, Sarah,
I can't
I
breathe.
can't breathe.
George has done that in the past before, too, where it's just like he thinks that he's woe is me kind of thing, where it's like, I don't
He's
think-
never been locked in a suitcase
No.
where he couldn't get out, so.
It's kind of, I thought it was
And
the
you know
boy
the oxygen
crying
is
wolf,
coming.
crying wolf kind of thing.
Okay.
And again, my plan.
But nowhere in there is he laughing, is he joking, he is begging. And you're the only one laughing,
Okay.
and you're the only one saying derogatory comments, like you're mad.
No. Please don't, I don't mean to sound negative, and I don't know if I can say this, but, like, it's like you guys are kind of trying to, like, feed me. Like,
No, I'm just trying to show you a video that you no longer want to watch because you probably don't want to know the outcome of how and what you said.
well, I know what,
You know what's on that video now?
No.
You remember making that video?
oh,
Why don't you remember making the video?
probably because we had been drinking.
But you weren't drunk.
No.
And with that, Sarah Boone is officially charged with the second-degree murder in the death of George Torres Jr., and she is held without bond.
Okay, Sarah, you're not free to go. Okay.
I need you to turn around, face the wall, put your hands behind your back. Do you have anything in your pockets that I should know about?
No.
Okay.
Why is this happening?
Because George is dead.
Not intentionally.
We understand that.
He's still dead.
So this was a trick.
No, it's not
No,
a trick.
not
How's
a
it a
trick.
trick?
Now, due to the pandemic, Sarah's trial process dragged on for years. They kept putting it off and delaying it. And over the course of 2 whole years, she went through 8 attorneys. She would always clash with them, and they would all end up quitting on her, withdrawing from the case. In July of last year, actually, 2024, she went into one of her hearings having to represent herself. And she submitted a hand-drawn ad for an attorney, trying to get her a new one. And here it is. A hot mess. It lists all of the qualifications that they must have in order to be her counsel. You must be trustworthy, honest, passion-driven, and open-minded. Have exceptional problem-solving skills, which I get that one because she definitely got a problem honey on her hands. She demands client inclusion at all times, team orientation, and collaboration. She wants to be involved in the things. You can't come in and just do your job. You must have extreme efficiency when it comes to listening, communication, and understanding. And last but not least, she says that you must maintain faith in the client and the case, and also have the ability to think differently and overcome all circumstances. There's a lot she put on this little flyer. I ain't got time to read it all, and you probably don't either, but if you do, here it is. I'm just playing in these people's courtroom. And the judge was not amused at all. He ruled that she forfeited her right to counsel, and she had actually unfortunately waived said rights through her actions. He said, quote, "It has become apparent to the court that the defendant will not permit herself to be represented by anyone." Her trial eventually officially began in October of 2024 and was over in 11 days. It went from the 14th to the 25th, with the jurors only deliberating for 2 hours before returning a guilty verdict. Her sentencing was held on December 2nd of 2024, and she did take the stand to say a few words, as she did during her trial. Unfortunately for her, though, none of those words could save her. She is sentenced ultimately to life in prison without the possibility of parole ever. Oh, I got one more little lock to go. Thank y'all for keeping me company. Like, this was not easy to do and film at the same time. Sure, I got some loose ends. Where y'all belong? Y'all going right in here. Ew. And now I am done and I have to go dry. That is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know your thoughts down below. Like the video before you leave. Share the video with a friend. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. Unreliable. Definitely giving my father, okay? Quiet as skip. Loud as I'm a deli. Really quick, because I know somebody's gonna ask, I have a total of 40 locks. My locks will be 2 years old on March 1st of this year, and I cannot believe it's been 2 years. That's crazy. And I do not get professional retwists. My friends started my locks, my friend and me. I have never gone to a loctician, and I have no desire to. I literally never will. And it's no shade against the locticians, it's literally not. It's just because somebody I truly really care about a lot and love deeply started them. And the person that I care about the most and love the deepest myself is the only person that's ever retwisted them. I don't want nobody's hands in my head on my locks unless we have like a connection. So like my older sister, she has a beautiful, beautiful head of locks. So she could retwist it. My mom maybe, my niece, but no one else, girl. Anyway, back to the story. But instead, he did not fight her on any he did. The two of them started dating and eventually Tori, now I'm calling him last name, girl. This is not investigation discovery. She and George began dating. The two of them moved in with one. Okay, no. One where things got out of hand, and then Jorge, oh, his name is George. Damn. One that got out of hand, and then Jorge got, I said it again. Now, when the police get the door open a little more, Jorge, his name ain't Jorge, girl, and was of course ordered to move out of her not out of her relationship. He should have been ordered to move out of her relationship. He should have. At home, minding her business, and he was downstairs. She was upstairs. He called for her to come. He called for her to come down. Okay, what? Hold on. He called for her to come downstairs to where he was, and she did not. Now, hold on. Is that a clean part or not? And he does express an interest. And he does express an interest in getting these are growing together, baby. I'm definitely giving Jay-Z around through here. Oh, I twisted this one the wrong way, fooling with y'all. Wait, I didn't. Damn. Fooling with y'all. Y'all, look at these parts. It's like fighting my way through the forest. Another one of Bella's dang on hairs. One of the officers comes back in with her suitcase. No, she didn't. What?